Okay, back. Uh, so I wanted to follow up to my last video, and I wanted to sort of say cheers again to you all for um, clicking on this again and watching and being here with me. And even though I can't see you, but mm, I also want to say, uh, with those who have had a loved one pass from COVID, that I'm very sorry. For those who have um, known someone and who has recovered. I'm very happy to hear about that. I personally have not known anyone who has passed of COVID or has had COVID. Um, that's on a personal level, people I personally know. But I have had different experiences with the backlash, I guess you could say, of this COVID virus. So when this first broke, uh, my husband, who has asthma uh, and watches the news, unlike myself, I don't have a TV, but he does, watches the news, and he, based on what they shared, believed because of his asthma he would die. So right off the bat, I was seen as a contagion. And that has caused a lot of, as you can imagine, issues, uh, emotional, just in the respect of for over 2 months, there has been no hugs, nothing. And I have had to deal with that, you know, and accept that and see that many people, not just my husband, but many people are in terror, in fear of getting COVID. Now, I knew early on that when people came into hospitals before there was testing, COVID was being covered 100%. So if you had a fever, if you had a cough, if you had lung issues, doctors and hospitals were told to put COVID. Didn't matter if you were coming in for heart, diabetes, cancer, anything else. If they saw it as COVID, they would get paid 100%. That would ensure that they got paid. And then they would take care of other things, but you still had COVID there. So that went into the numbers, the COVID numbers. So I've always been a little bit, wondering, are these numbers real? Uh, and again, I am not saying that this is not real. I know it's real, and I believe it's a lab created virus. But how we calculate the numbers, the fact that testing also, for those who are asymptomatic, often it's false positive, so we have to be very careful. Um, so that was my early experience with this. How I was working in my studio and then switched to smaller pieces. That also impacted my art practice. I was working on a totally different, body of work with multimedia in a studio, and then all of a sudden I just, it's shut down. I'm in the house, and it was enough for me just to do these small little pieces, trying to gather my thoughts about what was going on. My daughter is in nursing school, so she has, this is her last year. So her this year for her was hospital training. And I know some people, when they went online, it wasn't an issue. But with her training from a hospital to then online, obviously that was not going to be what she was to be getting. And so educationally, there have been ramifications. Child abuse has spiked, and that is horrible. Children in abusive homes, with environments where music is blasting, people are screaming, TV is being watched, they're not going to be able to focus on their studies. And if they aren't getting the right nutrition, you know, they are so vulnerable. And that's another thing that's really sad about the educational part of this. Uh, and that has to be looked into. And I feel like it's not being given as much weight as other aspects of this. But it's part of it when we have school closures. And I have not, again, known of someone personally with COVID, but I have known many who have lost their jobs and health insurance due to COVID. And being termed non-essential is not helpful to the psyche versus the essentials. And I watched Doug Anderson. He's a cop in the state of Washington. He's on leave right now because of a video he posted on the tyranny that he felt was happening within police departments across the states, being asked to do things that they hadn't been asked to do before, go into people's homes, close their businesses, pull people over, ask for permits. Now, I don't know if many of you know this, but if you're an essential worker, you have a permit to drive. If you're a non-essential, you don't. So the person that rents the space above my garage, she works in a bank and she has a permit to drive. That's very bothersome to me. Where are we headed with that? I also am very concerned about how people are being treated that can't go into hospitals. They can't have advocates. Because my parents were going in and out of the hospital for years, I saw a lot of the neglect that happened. And often the neglect can lead to death. You do not have one-to-one nurse-to-patient ratio in hospitals. Doctors breeze in and out within minutes. So my brother has prostate cancer, and he was told a while back that he needed surgery. Well, that's very disconcerting when you're told your surgery is non-essential. You have prostate cancer and your surgery is non-essential because of COVID. You can die from cancer, but it's non-essential based on the fact that they're judging from tests. Well, it's slow growing, not fast growing. So he's been waiting, and he just was notified that he can have surgery, but it's going to be in August. Well, that's 3 more months. Okay, if you have cancer, and I've known people who have had cancer, many people I know have had cancer, that's unnerving to be told you've now, got to wait even more months. And then on top of it, he was told he can't have his wife there as his advocate of 40 years. Troubling to me that we don't have patient advocacy groups fighting for patients to have family advocates. If you just have one in a mask, in gloves, with proper hygiene, sanitization, that should be something that is implemented ASAP. I have heard horror stories about kids, 12-year-old kids, going in for major surgeries, parents not allowed. The elderly, we've already heard about dying without being able to have their loved ones with them. That's pretty inhumane. So, these things I'm very troubled about. I'm very concerned about. It is, to me, very disturbing. And when we break people up like we're doing, and we're starting to see very clearly division, unlike any other time. I mean, obviously with Trump coming in, there's a lot of division, but this has created even more division. And domestic spousal abuse, aside from child abuse, is on the rise. And that's terrifying. Uh, my sister, she's in a situation, she has MS, she's in a wheelchair, her health is deteriorating, and her husband recently gave her an ultimatum that they need to move out of state because of his fear of what's happening with all the fallout of the new rules and laws with COVID. He wants to move out of state now, and if not, he'll divorce her. Well, that's you know very sad, very tragic, and I'm dealing with that, and just the ramifications of that. So, along with my own health, wondering because dentistry was not essential, what's going on with my teeth. I've had pain in some of my teeth, and I have had white patches that have shown up, and I'm hoping it's nothing, but it could be something, and I've got to get that looked at. So, I try not to fixate on that, and I try to stay positive. But, these are very trying times in a myriad of ways. It's just not, and it should not just be funneled to those who have COVID, because people are calling suicide hotlines 8,000%. It has gone up for people calling in on suicide hotlines. I know someone who was put in a psych ward, and I wanted to see her, and I was denied that. 2 times I tried to go see her, and I couldn't. And that was very traumatizing to me, because she had said that she had been treated roughly in there and had bruises, and I wanted to at least, see her, even take pictures if possible. I couldn't because of COVID. How do I deal with that? I'm really trying to wrap my mind around the validity of these rules and these parameters that we've all of a sudden been given, and this desire to keep going, these things that, if we look at them, have serious ramifications in different areas, not just in COVID. So on the positive side, I see, I love Japan, and so people, wearing masks isn't a big deal, in the sense of, in Japan, if you feel like you're going to get sick or you are sick, wear a mask. Not everyone does, but a lot of people do, because they have so many people per square inch, very crowded. And so public transit, it's you're squished in there. And so, that's the good side of this. We're learning about, germs, I guess, in a way that maybe people weren't really aware of. I used to see people go into restrooms when I go out to eat or to a movie, and women would go to the bathroom and leave. They wouldn't wash their hands. So, hey, here's the good side of it. Learning that, washing your hands is a good thing. People working in businesses, having to wipe things down. Hey, that's a good thing. Keeping things sanitized. It's not bad. And, learning that things can change just like that. It's not such a bad idea to go through. I always wondered how Hitler could turn friends, colleagues, family against each other. Well, now I know, because I have seen that personally. I have seen, when I was going on walks early on, people heading towards me and then darting across the street, to get away from me. I have seen, even in this, where I'm standing on certain issues, people are being very polarized in a very short amount of time. And that's very troubling to me. But I understand it. And I clearly see how Hitler could do what he did, although it took longer. But here, it's been rather rapid. Anyway, I love you.